Hi, and welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today. I'm Renee Williams, and I'm here with my co-host, Billy Thomas, and we both work at the University of Kentucky in the Forestry Department. And we are so glad that you have joined us today.
Yeah, no doubt. Whether you're joining us via Facebook or if you're with us on Zoom, we're glad to have you with us. You can interact with us via the chat pod in the Zoom or on comments in the Facebook. And, Renee, a good show today.
Definitely. We always have a lot of topics to cover, and today is not any shortage of those.
Yeah, no, we're really excited to have a representative from the Urban Forestry Initiative, and he'll tell you more about that. But that's an initiative that started here out of the University of Kentucky. Mr. Nick Williamson is going to be talking about that and this toolkit that they've developed. It's really some really cool things. So Nick will be talking about that, and we have our ever popular Dr. Ellen Crocker going to be talking about what's bugging my trees. She's going to be talking about a kind of a disease that's going on right now in the springtime that you probably will see on some different trees. So she'll help you understand what's going on with that. We have our tree of the week as well. Really
ever
cool.
Popular.
Yes, very cool. And then we'll wrap it up with some upcoming programs that we have coming up this summer. So I'm really glad to have you all with us today.
Definitely. So let's go ahead and get started. Nick, if you want to go ahead and join us. Good morning. How are you?
Hello. Nick. Hi there. Nice to see you all.
Good. Thank you for being on the show today. We greatly appreciate it.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sure. And if you could, can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to talk about today?
Sure. So I work for an organization called the Urban Forest Initiative, and we're based out of here at the University of Kentucky. And I'm going to be talking about a few of the resources we've developed that the audience may find useful or interesting when it comes to engaging with the urban tree canopy.
All right, sounds great.
So just a little bit of background on the Urban Forest Initiative. We got started about 6 or 7 years ago, based out of the university here, with the primary focus of thinking more intentionally about the community in urban forests, so trees that are in the built environment, protecting those trees, raising awareness about those trees, and thinking about all the benefits that the urban and community forests provide. So we have, as you can see here, the co-founders and leads of the Urban Forest Initiative are Doctors Mary Arthur, Lynn Riss-Kinney, and Chris Sass. And they're largely in charge of our core team, which I'm a part of. And we do urban and community forestry projects and programming, education, K through adult. So we'll talk to young kids all the way up to the young at heart. The other part of our work is we operate and run a regional working group called the Urban Forest Initiative Working Group. Now you'll see UFI, UFI throughout, and I might slip and say that. So that's sort of our abbreviated name for the Urban Forest Initiative. But this working group is a collaborative of individuals around the state and around the Fayette County area, land managers, arborists, city, state government, Fayette County Public Schools, lots of folks who have all come together with an interest in this idea of promoting and enhancing the urban tree canopy. So a few of the projects that we've been involved with, just to give you a little bit more of a background here, is if anyone's heard of Tree Week. Tree Week was an annual event that the Urban Forest Initiative Working Group started about 3 years ago. 2018, I believe, was our first one. And we've had one every year since, with activities and community events all over the region. This year, we're having our 4th annual Tree Week, and there's actually been some Tree Weeks popping up in other cities in connection with Tree Week. So Paducah and Berea and Hazard, Kentucky, are all in the processes of planning their Tree Weeks as well. So we do mulching, we do volunteer activities, speakers, etc., all in the vein of providing opportunities for people to engage with the urban forest. So that's a little bit of background, and what I wanted to share today is some tools on our website that I thought may be of interest and use to the audience that we have here. So I'm going to put in the chat the link to the web page that is up on your screen here. Hopefully that showed up. That's our the tools link, the link to the tools on our web page. And let's see, what could we look at here? I think a good place to start would probably be with our toolkits, because these largely capture a lot of the work and activities that we've done. So you saw in some of those pictures, well, let me go ahead and bring one up and then we can just start talking through it. I'll bring up the K through 12 toolkit. Before I do that, I should just say that, so we've been involved in a lot of activities over the past 7 years when it comes to thinking about ways that people can engage with the trees right outside of them, right outside of their doors, rather. And I'll just say largely that's sort of what brought me to urban and community forestry. And I think that's what brings a lot of people to it is that, it's a resource that's oftentimes accessible to more of us than a natural forested region. Many people can take a walk down the street and find a tree in a park or in their yard, etc. So urban and community forestry, I guess the way we think about it is it's a really good window into learning about the environment and learning about conservation and learning about natural resources. And so we've taken a few different paths on, actually engaging and getting involved with that. And these toolkits that I'm sharing on the screen here and in the link, they detail a lot of the paths that we've treaded to engage people with that resource. So let's bring up the K through 12 toolkit here. These are downloadable off of the website, off that link that I shared. We got some silly high schoolers here enjoying a tree right outside. I believe that's Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School there. And I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but I just want to sort of highlight a few of the sections to give you a flavor about what this thing is about. So there's a table of contents, of course, that can help guide you. Maybe I'll just talk about a few projects and then, you can decide. This whole thing is really designed so that it's kind of like an ideas bag. You open it up. If you're thinking about doing some sort of tree engagement, there are some ideas in here for you to think about using wherever you are. So you saw a picture in the slide that I showed that showed a community mulching event. And we've done a lot of community mulching events because we've found that we found this sort of strange phenomenon that people tend to enjoy spreading mulch. And maybe it's not just spreading mulch, but it's getting together to spread the mulch. So mulch is a very readily available resource. Oftentimes it's a waste product even that needs a place to be disposed of. But then simultaneously, if used in the right way, it can bring great benefits to soil health and tree health. It's a buffer for temperature and water and moisture and all these things. So it has all these good benefits if put to the right use. So we have done volunteer mulching projects on UK campus. We've also done them out in city parks in concert with the city government, who often has wood chips to get rid of. Other suppliers of wood chips have been local arborists. Utility arboriculture can be a good place to get wood chips too. But it's just really, we found it really, there's a community building aspect to it, and sort of maybe even a pride. There's a certain sense of pride with mulching, trees at a city park. So that's an activity that we've been involved with and had great experiences with. Of course, we don't want to see any mulch volcanoes. And then simultaneously, we in the urban space, we see this a lot around Lexington. Is actually when mulch is applied incorrectly, right? There can be a negative effect on trees. So you've heard of the mulch volcanoes. So we've also done demulching activities where people will go in with gloves and maybe a trowel or a soil knife and do tree root collar excavations where they pull back that mulch that's been piled too high, and maybe even prune any girdling roots that you'd see around such a tree. So another idea with mulch, but sort of the inverse of mulching. Of course, tree plantings, that's the go-to for any activity. It's how can you have a bad time when you put a tree in the ground, and especially when you put it in the right site and plant it with care and intention, and that's always a good activity. Just thinking through a few other things, we've been involved quite a bit for the past 3 years with tree inventorying and mapping. So there's high and low tech approaches to that. The low tech would be a pencil and paper drawing your school or place of work, and then going out and just drawing in the trees as you come to them. But there's also some GIS and geospatial approaches to mapping that we've worked with. And I should say, I don't know where the audience is tuning in from, but we're working this summer in several communities around Kentucky, including Berea, Paducah, Hazard, and Georgetown, where we'll be doing some tree mapping and outreach activities as well. So if you're in any of those communities, I'd love to chat more also. And then maybe I don't know how much time I've got left here, but I'll use my last couple minutes to talk about maybe the more social and intangible aspects that we like to think about when it comes to the benefits of trees. So we've worked a lot with people of all different ages, and we talk about the ecosystem benefits of trees, the carbon sequestration, the rainwater interception, all these sort of tangible and monetary benefits that we get from trees. But what I've actually noticed in my brief time working in this field, is that many times it's not the eco benefits that people are responding to when it comes to thinking about things like their favorite tree. It's more of the personal connection and personal stories that they've developed around these trees. It's remember one kid saying his favorite tree was a black walnut because he loved in the fall picking up, the black walnuts and hitting them across the yard with his baseball bat, right? So it's a lot of times it's these more personal things that we find to connect with nature. And so we had this really interesting student working with us who was a nursing student who was interested in this idea of mindfulness and nature therapy. And so she developed a script that can be used to lead mindfulness and tree mindfulness exercises with folks. And this is getting a lot more attention these days as we think about forest bathing and sort of legitimizing the field of nature-based therapy, right? And probably many of you on this call, that's sort of why you're here, is because you've experienced some of those social and mental and physical health benefits of being out and in and amongst trees. I guess lastly, I should just mention on that same tools page, there's a link to our Adopt a Tree program. And well, let's see if I could just get back there real quick. We went back to the tools page, which I put a link to. there is a link to the Adopt a Tree activity. And this sort of starts to tap at that, what I just talked about was the benefits of trees that we've personally experienced and how to talk about those, and then linking that with the eco benefits that we get from trees. So the Adopt a Tree is another activity, a great intro activity when it comes to starting to get and think about trees as this valuable part of our lives and landscapes. Okay.
Thank you, Nick. We greatly appreciate you presenting this topic. And I was wondering, could you use this toolkit in woods as well if you have woodlands?
Could you use this toolkit? I think so. I mean, I think anywhere there's a tree, you could apply a lot of these projects, or at least they could be modified to fit, in areas where there are more trees. I do. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And if you wanted to get more involved in city outreach or UFI or whatever, you have a whole bunch of events on your website. Whenever you have them, you'll post them on your website. Is that correct?
We do. Yeah, we post the events there. The next one that we'll be working on will be Tree Week, and that's in October. So there will be a whole bunch of events coming online associated with Tree Week.
All right.
Nick, what you all are doing with UFI or the Urban Forest Initiative is really cool. And it's a great opportunity really to connect to a lot of people that may not have that relationship with nature, to try to get them to recognize the importance of trees. And I just really appreciate what you all are doing. It's great work. And I'm glad to see UFI's thriving and spreading. You all are doing good stuff.
Well, thanks a bunch, and thanks for having us on to share the work. And I'll put my email in the chat, and I'm happy to talk more. So thanks for having us on.
Thanks
so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Really cool, Renee. When he was talking about the forest bathing, it's really cool. Some of these studies have shown that like cortisol levels, stress, levels go down as people are out exposed to nature and stuff. And you can see that, you get removed from all the distractions and
right. And I think there's just a lot to be said about, just listening to the wind through the leaves of the trees, and it'll definitely calm you down.
Yes. Well, speaking of trees and maybe what's bugging your trees, we have Dr. Ellen Crocker with us. Dr. Crocker, how are you today?
Hello, I am great. Always a nice time to join you all on the show.
Yeah, so you're going to be talking about what's bugging my tree. Teeth that are to be picked.
Yes, and so this is the time of year, I think, kind of early summer, late spring, where we start to see lots of different fungal leaf issues on our trees. And I'm going to be talking about one of those today. But I think it's really important with all of these things to be able to distinguish those that are really going to hurt your trees over time versus those that might look terrible, but aren't really going to negatively impact your tree in the long term. So today we're going to be talking about anthracnose, which is one of those, and a little bit more information on what it is, what it looks like, which trees it will cause disease on, and what to do about it. Spoiler alert, typically not much.
No.
Well, I guess that's good then, right?
I would look forward to hearing it.
All right, I'll go ahead and roll that video.
Anthracnose is a common fungal disease of shade trees. It pops up each year in the spring and can look pretty bad with trees that have dead leaves, dark patches on them, and trees might even drop all their leaves. However, while this looks bad, those trees typically bounce back, and there's very minimal damage to those trees, although there are some exceptions. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about what anthracnose is, how to recognize it, and what you can do about it. Anthracnose is a general name for the disease that's caused by a group of fungal pathogens. And the type of disease that it causes is typically in the leaves. So it might cause dead patches in those leaves, typically right along a vein and spreading out from there, kind of where you'd imagine water pooling. It might also cause distortion of those leaves, cupping or curling, weirdly shaped leaves. Because of this, trees might drop their leaves, And in some plants, some tree species, it can also move into the branches, into those shoots and those buds. In those cases, it typically causes more damage because not only is it impacting those leaves, but also that new growth, which is very important. There are some things that can look similar to anthracnose from other fungal diseases that pop up this time of year to more serious issues, and being able to tell them apart is really important. So if you have any questions about whether what you're seeing is anthracnose or if it's something else, be sure to reach out to your local extension agent or local arborist. Many different trees get anthracnose, from sycamores to oaks to maples to smaller trees like dogwood. It's a really wide range, and the type of disease that's caused depends on both the species of fungus and the tree species that it's on. There are actually lots of different anthracnose species that cause this disease, and they tend to be pretty host specific. So it's unlikely that your disease in one tree is going to move to a different tree of a different species in your yard. Even though the symptoms might look the same, they're actually different species of fungi that are causing that. On some tree species, anthracnose is much more serious. Species like dogwood and sycamore, and a lot of times this comes because it will move into the shoots and not just stay on those leaves. Disease varies year to year, and how bad symptoms are is going to depend somewhat on the weather that we get in the spring. Fungi that cause anthracnose really like those wet, cool conditions. So if we've got a lot of those when leaves are coming out, you could expect to see more anthracnose. Those anthracnose fungi survive in buds, in shoots, in dead tissue, so that can spread those spores to the next generation of growth, overwintering that way so that then they can infect that fresh tissue the following spring. In most cases, there's no management that's needed for anthracnose. Although things might look bad, those trees recover rapidly, and the damage tends to be pretty cosmetic. Sometimes trees will even drop all their leaves and put on a new flush of leaves if they have a really severe infection. And while that's a good strategy for those trees, it can also stress those trees because that's a drain on their energy. So if that's happening year after year, it could be something that contributes to the overall decline of those trees. As with many different tree issues, promoting the health of your trees in general will go a long way to enabling them to defend themselves against anthracnose as well as other diseases and insect problems. This could be watering your trees if you have a severe drought, making sure that they have a nice, appropriately sized mulch ring around them. Sanitation, or removing any infected tissue, diseased tissue, can be helpful with many different fungal diseases because that's how the disease is going to infect next year's tissue. So if you want to kind of break that cycle, remove those infected shoots, in some cases there are some really good cultivars available that are resistant to anthracnose. So if you're shopping around for trees for your landscape, think about that and maybe select a cultivar or a species that's going to be more resistant to anthracnose, especially if you see a lot of damage on your other trees. You might have something about that environment that's really conducive to anthracnose, and so promoting trees that don't have that issue will go a long way to set you up for success down the road. For some species like dogwood and sycamore that are really susceptible to anthracnose, site selection can go a long way. So picking a site that's sunny, that has good drainage, that's not going to hold a lot of moisture in there because that's how that fungus likes to spread. Similarly, it may be beneficial to prune trees to promote air circulation, especially on trees that are being really impacted by anthracnose, so that you've got more circulation and less moisture held on those leaves. Other practices that might increase leaf moisture, especially during that early time window, like let's say watering with a sprinkler, should also be discouraged if you're having anthracnose issues, to reduce that moisture and the spread of that fungus. While typically not needed, there are many fungicides that are available for anthracnose, and there's many different brand names and active chemicals, so make sure you check out the labels and always follow the recommendations on those.
The fungicides that are registered for anthracnose typically have to be applied as a preventative, so before you start seeing symptoms that year. And they may need to be applied multiple times over the course of that infection period. It's not something that you can do once and be done with, but more something that you're going to have to watch and repeatedly apply until you're not seeing as severe symptoms. Thanks for joining me today with this tree tidbit and learning a little bit more anthracnose. If you've got other questions, make sure to follow us online and check us out on social media at KY Forest Health.
Well, thank you, Ellen. We greatly appreciate that video. That was wonderful. So now you said it could get on multiple trees. Is there a certain number, or is any tree of it available for this?
Well, there are trees that are not going to get it, and they're more resistant to it. And there's a lot. It's not just trees. You can get different anthracnose on your vegetables. So but again, it's not the same species of fungus. It's a broad group. So it's more of a general term for the types of symptoms that it causes. And the fungi that cause it tend to all kind of be related. But where it gets the most attention is where it's causing kind of really obvious problems in shade trees, which is what we're talking about today. I didn't go into the vegetable side of things. I'll leave that to someone else. But especially with dogwood. So dogwood gets a couple different types of anthracnose. One of them is a little spot anthracnose that will just be kind of maybe some spots on the leaves, on the flowers especially. But it can also get what's called dogwood anthracnose. So I know that's confusing because the spot anthracnose is also on dogwood. But that can be more problematic over time, cause the death of those shoots, move into the twigs and not just kind of stay in that superficial tissue. And with dogwood, I think it's a good example of some of the challenges with this, because some of the kind of practices I mentioned, you don't want your leaves to be too moist. You don't want them to be kind of gathering a lot of moisture. Dogwood loves to grow in the understory, right? So, I mean, it doesn't want to grow in locations that are going to be optimal for that. But there are some good resistant cultivars. So there are different cultivars of dogwood that you could purchase of our native dogwood that are more resistant to it. There's the Appalachian Spring cultivar and others. There's also kind of different dogwood species that you could use. Maybe some of the Asian dogwoods that are going to be more resistant to anthracnose, as well as hybrids between those. And for anybody who's interested in those fungicides, there's a lot of different options that are out there. And so I recommend going to the store and checking them out. Just make sure to follow the label. The label will say, for use on anthracnose of shade trees. And you have to follow the labels, because not only is that a suggestion, it's the law.
Labels the law. Yes, good reminder.
We did get a question about if Southern Magnolia can get that.
I don't know. Let me look into that for you, Kathy. I know that Southern Magnolia will frequently have signs of kind of winter injury this time of year, or you'll see it right now. And that, that kind of scorching of the leaf margins in. And that's a really good point, in that there's a lot of other things that can kind of look like anthracnose. Some of them more serious, some of them less serious. And if you've got samples that you're not sure about, is this anthracnose, is this something else? Before you spray a fungicide on those trees, maybe do some research either yourself and compare that, or for any of you watching, you can work with your county extension agent to look at some of those samples, maybe send them some photos of it, and they could help you confirm that.
Okay. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you, Ellen.
Yep, it's great. You're really helping so much people to understand what they're seeing out there, and when it's a problem, when it's not. Ellen, thank you for all your work.
Well, I'm already working on what's bugging my tree for next month. But if you all have suggestions of things that you commonly see and always get questions about, let me know, and I will add them to my schedule.
Excellent.
Oh,
Yes,
and I
so
want to
this
give a
is gonna-
special shout out to when I was filming this in the Arboretum, one of the fans of the show, Elizabeth, was there, and it was nice to see her and nice to kind of be looking at some of these things together. So wanted to say hi, Elizabeth. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, shout out to Elizabeth. Thank you.
Exactly, definitely. We couldn't do this without our viewers,
Yeah.
that's for sure. And Ellen, you are going to make this a monthly series, right? So that's
the plan.
Yeah,
So
that's the plan.
send me your suggestions. If you always get questions about, this thing or another, send them my way and I'll see what I can do.
Excellent.
wonderful. Thank you, Ellen.
Yes, as always. Great stuff. All right. Talking about trees, we've got our ever popular tree of the week. This one is, and I'll save it, but Laurie couldn't be with us today for the show, but she did prepare this one. This is one you haven't seen yet. It's a northern Catalpa. So I'll go ahead and share it with you.
Wonderful.
I'm Laurie Thomas with the University of Kentucky Forestry and Natural Resources Extension, and I'm here with the tree of the week, the northern Catalpa. Northern Catalpa, Catalpa speciosa, is a very attractive tree, from the showy flowers in late spring to the interesting hanging pods in fall and winter. It's also known as hardy catalpa, catawba, or cigar tree, and it is a member of the Bignoniaceae family, also known as the trumpet creeper family, which includes trees, shrubs, vines, and herbs. Most of these species in this family are found in tropical locations. There are 2 catalpa species that reach tree size in the United States: southern catalpa, Catalpa bignonioides, and northern catalpa. Northern catalpa typically grows about 80 feet tall and up to about 36 inches in diameter, and it has an irregular to oval-shaped crown. While it's not ideal for every location, this unique and hardy tree is a fast grower that finds a home in parks and yards throughout the country. Northern Cantalpa has a small native range from southern Indiana and southern Illinois to western Kentucky and western Tennessee to southeastern Missouri and northeastern Arkansas. However, it has been widely planted throughout the eastern United States and naturalized through cultivation. Within its native range, it is found as a bottomland tree in rich, moist soils and grows best in full to partial sunlight. However, it does tolerate a variety of soil conditions that can be found in urban areas. Northern Cantalpa is a deciduous tree with whorled or oppositely arranged simple leaves, as you can see in the photo. The leaves are heart-shaped, about 5 to 12 inches long, and they have entire or smooth margins. They are light green to green above and paler with a soft pubescence on the underside. Fall color is yellow, but it's not particularly showy. This species is monoecious, which means the tree has both male and female flowers. The white fragrant flowers are very showy. They are somewhat bell-shaped or trumpet-shaped, about 1 inch long, and they have yellow and purple spots on the inside. The flowers are grouped in clusters of 8 to 12 inches across, and the flowers bloom in late spring and are pollinated during the day by bees that are guided by the yellow and purple markings inside the flower, and at night they're pollinated by moths that are attracted by the fragrance. Trees can begin producing flowers as early as 7 years after planting. The fruit is a long bean-like hanging capsule, and this capsule is usually about 10 to 18 inches long, round in cross-section and very stiff. The capsule contains many flattened seeds that have 2 papery fringed wings. The pods are green until maturing to brown, and the seeds mature in autumn, but many times the capsules remain attached over winter, and the seeds are dispersed by wind. The bark is gray to reddish-brown in color, and it tends to separate into scaly ridges with irregular fissures. The wood is durable and decay-resistant, even when in direct contact with the ground. The heartwood color ranges from a grayish tan to a golden brown, and the sapwood is narrow and pale gray. It is a ring-porous species with 3-date rows of large early wood pores. That's the wood that's formed in the spring, and smaller late wood pores, and that's the wood that's formed later in the summer. The wood somewhat resembles the wood from ash trees. Northern Catalpa flowers provide a source of nectar for bees and moths, and the flowers of the Catalpa are also visited by hummingbirds. It is the sole host of the Catalpa sphinx moth larvae that feed on the leaves. The wood is used for fence posts and railroad ties due to its durability. It is also used as a utility wood and used in cabinetry. Due to its durability, it is ideal for outdoor carvings. This attractive tree can be used as an ornamental in a landscape because of those lovely spring flowers, the large leaves that provide great shade, and its interesting winter appeal due to those seed pods. However, when placed in a yard or landscape setting, there should be ample space and be prepared to deal with plant litter in the form of flowers and fruit drop. Additionally, the wood can be subject to wind and ice damage. The national champion Northern Catalpa, as of 2021, is located in Lawrence, Ohio. It's 274 inches in circumference, 71 feet tall, with a 71-foot crown spread. The Kentucky champion, as of 2021, is in Clark County. It is 279 inches in circumference, 86 feet tall, with a 55-foot crown spread. If you'd like to know more about national champion trees, check out American Forest National Champion Trees or check out the Kentucky Division of Forestry Champion Trees. Now for a few fun facts about Northern Catalpa. The common name cigar tree comes from the fruit resembling long cigars. The Catalpa moth caterpillar is widely regarded as one of the best live baits, and it's earned the tree the other common names of worm tree or bait tree. Pioneer doctors used the seed pods and seeds to make a concoction for chronic bronchial infections, asthma, labored breathing, and heart problems. The juice from the leaves or the roots was also used to treat swelling of the eyes. The genus name Catalpa is derived from the Cherokee name of this tree, Catalpa, and the species name Spiciosa is from the Latin species and osa, which means showy, referring to the flowers. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Northern Catalpa and get a chance to get out into your woodland, local park, or neighborhood and check out this flowering beauty.
Well, Billy, that looks like a beautiful tree.
It really is, Renee. I think we just want to reiterate what Laurie was saying is this is a beautiful tree. It's great in the landscape, but you don't want it too close to your house because it's not only going to get very large, it can be quite trashy. And, another thing I wanted to mention, she mentioned the bait, the caterpillars, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing bait for bass and bluegill. So if you're a fisherman or woman, bass and bluegill will eat those worms right up. So you'll see those probably a little later in the summer as they're feeding on the tree. So, check it out. It's a really cool tree.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so it is the last Wednesday of the month. And so you have some upcoming programs for June for us. Yeah,
I wanted to just kind of highlight a few things that we've got coming up in this coming month, as well as a little preview of what's coming up in July and August as well. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and share that.
Okay. Yeah, we like to do this for our viewers just so they kind of know what's happening in the next couple of months, and just kind of gives them a little bit of understanding of some of the things we might be talking about on the show.
Yeah, no doubt. So we'll kick us off, and you can find links to these programs on our calendar page as well. But let's talk about what's coming up in June. So first, I want to start off with the Kentucky Woodland Owner Update. Will be the third month we've been doing this in partnership with the Kentucky Woodland Owners Association. And this month, it's going to be a little bit different. We're actually having Silvaterra, which is a company that does a lot of stuff. But one of the things that they've started doing is offering carbon credits. So if you're a woodland owner, you probably heard about carbon sequestration and wanting to kind of understand more about this. This is an opportunity to do this. The Kentucky Woodland Owners Association has formed a committee that's really investigating a variety of programs. And Renee, there are like 5 or 6 programs out there right now available for woodland owners that are interested in carbon sequestration. And they're all a little bit different as far as what you're getting into and how long it lasts and what the payments might be. But for this first one, we're going to give you a chance to learn about what Silvaterra has to offer. So that's going to be on June 8th at 7 p.m. And there's the link, and there is a registration required for that. This one's actually going to be hosted by Silvaterra, the company itself. So check that out if you're interested. But I will tell you, we've got much more coming on carbon credits and carbon programs for woodland owners. This just happens to be one of the first ones we're going to be kind of talking and discussing. Next, I want to talk about the Woodland Owner Short Course. Now, while it is not in June, it does kick off in July, and we've got a lot more details than we had before. These online sessions are going to start on July 27th, and I'll talk about the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, and whys of woodland management in Kentucky. And then on the 29th, we're going to have Dr. Ellen Crocker talking about woodland health. We're going to have Jacob Muller talking about woodland management practices, and Matt Springer talking about wildlife management practices online in those series. And then we have the field sessions. We have 3 field sessions in West, Central, and East Kentucky. The West Kentucky is going to start us off on August 14th out at Princeton. And that's really going to be a neat field day. So if you're in Western Kentucky, go ahead and mark your calendars for August 14th. And we'll look forward to seeing you all out in the woods in person, Renee. I can't believe it.
I know, it'll be so nice to actually get back in the woods.
I know, to get to meet landowners and others out in the woods is great. And then we're going to move over to East Kentucky on the 21st of August, and we're going to be at UK's Robinson Forest. So if you've ever been interested in checking out UK's Robinson Forest, this is a great opportunity to do so. And we're going to be talking about a wide variety of opportunities for woodland management with a focus on Eastern Kentucky. And then we're going to wrap up the Woodland Owner Short Course this year on August 28th at Bernheim Arboretum and Research Forest just outside of Louisville. They've been doing a lot of work over there for a number of years, and they've graciously agreed to allow us to have our program there. So a big shout out and thanks to Bernheim for opening up their facility for our use to talk about woodland owners management opportunities for them. So please, we'll have the registration really soon. So make sure you check that out as soon as we have that available. And then we got a big lineup. You know, we get 5 shows in June, Renee. So, I mean, it's a short month, only 30 days, but we're packing in 5 shows. So we're going to start off with Intrigued. This is Dr. Jacob Muller's series where he's taking a deep dive into different aspects of forestry and forest management and some of the players involved in that. So make sure you check that out. And then on the 9th, we're going to have Dr. Laura DeWald is going to be talking about the White Oak Tree Improvement Program. So there's been a lot that's been in the news lately. We had a big spread in the newspaper, in the Herald Leader newspaper here in Lexington a week or so ago. So there's getting a lot of attention with that. And then on the 16th, we got Bees in Kentucky. And that's going to be with Dr. Tammy Potter. She's the state apiarist. And so it's an opportunity to, if you've ever been interested in honeybees or what's going on with honeybees or maybe getting honeybees on your own property, this is a show that you do not want to miss. And then on June 23rd, we're going to have Dr. Amanda Gumbert back with us. She's going to be talking about farmers and woodland owners and local watersheds and how all those intersect and can be complementary to one another. So make sure you check that one out. And then on June 30th, we have one of our very own county extension agents, Susan Fox from Lyon County is going to be with us. And she's going to be talking about some of the great native alternatives. You know, a lot of times, Renee, people are attracted to some of these invasive exotic plants because of their showy flowers or growth habitat. But Susan's going to be showing us some of the alternatives that you can do instead of some of those that may end up causing you some problems down the road. So great lineup of shows coming up in June. So make sure that you check out that and stay tuned for the Woodland Owner Short Course registration that should be available very soon.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Billy. We greatly appreciate you letting us know about all the upcoming programs that we have going on. And, you know, we're always an upcoming program, right? And just like you've listed all of those. So make sure you tune in with us every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. And, you know, Billy, any kind of show that we've ever had, they can actually rewatch them if they'd like.
Great point, Renee. On FromTheWoodsToday.com, we have all of the shows archived there. So if there's anything that you've missed, check that out. You can also check out many of the shows and many other videos on our YouTube page as well. So again, thank you all for being with us each week. We're so delighted to have you with us.
Yes, we greatly appreciate you, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have the show. So thank you very much. And until then, we'll see you next Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Take care.
Bye, everyone.